to another edition of Real Talk with Rich and John. This is a show where John and myself pick a movie that we like, and we're here to talk about why we liked it. Maybe it's not so popular, it's more of an underground movie, or it's a movie that maybe didn't do well critically, but we're here to defend it and talk about why we liked it and growing up with it. And we have two great movies I think that I definitely enjoyed. First one is 1972, Frogs. Great movie starring Ray Milland, Sam Elliott. It was Joan Van Ark. I mean,
yeah, Joan Van Ark, which I forgot she was in it. Like, we'll get into that though. Yeah.
And then the second movie, another one of my favorites growing up, it was actually a little bit later. It was 1990. Frankenhooker. That's all you have to say. You don't even have to.
So, before we even get into the movies, why did we choose these two together? Was it just because they both started like alphabetically?
No, here's what happened. I went a couple weeks.
I don't remember why we chose these two together for one episode.
No, several months ago, I went to Connecticut Cult Classics at the Strand Theater, and I said, "Oh yeah, you invited me to a party." I said, "Oh man, I'm at Frankenhooker." You're like, "Oh my god, that would make a great Real Talk." And then
I didn't know they were doing it because I would have canceled my party and gone to that if I knew they were doing Frankenhooker. Because I love that movie.
It's hilarious. And you know what I love is, like, sometimes I don't like when movies, I'll give you an example. Like, for me, I don't like Sharknado because it's sort of like they're in on the joke, but they're trying too hard to be a campy movie. I like movies that don't try to be campy. They try to be good, and that they end up being campy. But this one definitely is.
This one knew it was a campy, weird movie, but it played it right.
Exactly.
It wasn't so over the top for the sake of being campy. It was just aware it was campy, so they just went with it.
Yeah.
There's a difference. Yeah.
It was sort of
so how did Frogs end up with this movie then? I don't remember. Like,
I think I was going through my movies. It was around the same time. I was like, what's another movie we can usually do two movies with Real Talk? And I don't know what happened. It jumped at me. I said, Frogs and Frankenhooker. I said, sounds great and looks great on the marquee.
Really, Frogs, Frankenhooker. Yeah, there we go. All right, I just was like, I was thinking about that today. I'm like, why did we choose those two together? Was it just, and I'm thinking maybe it's because we had that alphabetical list. I couldn't remember. And I'm like, maybe that was just, we went with that. But anyways, yeah, Frogs and Frankenhooker. So which one do you want to do first?
Let's do Frogs.
All right.
Frogs.
So, like, I had never seen the movie until 2001, I think, maybe early 2002. I had heard of it. I'd seen the box in the video store, things like that. And then I had some magazine. It wasn't Rue Morgue. It wasn't Fangoria. It was some horror magazine that's not around anymore. And on the last page, they would always have like a celebrity pick films and write little blurbs. And in that issue, had to be Bruce Campbell. And he wrote a thing about frogs. And I was like, all right, I'm finally going to have to rent this movie. And went to the Hollywood Video, whatever it was, in Brandon, Florida, and rented it. And as soon as Sam Elliott showed up on screen, I was like, you got to be kidding me. Because Bruce Campbell made some sort of crack about, you'll recognize this actor and you won't believe it. Like, in his little, he didn't say who it was, And I was like, that is Sam Elliott. Oh my God. And I just thought the movie was, at first I thought it came out after Jaws. I thought it was one of those Jaws knockoffs.
Yeah.
And then I looked at the date, and then I was even more baffled. So how did you first see Frogs?
I want to say it was either the Movie Channel or HBO back in this, like, the late 70s, mid to 70s.
First hit, because they first hit like in 78, yeah.
Yeah, because it came out in 72, so it was about 78. I was 10 years old, and we had the Movie Channel or HBO because we got that first, and we were watching. I said, this is hilarious. Yeah, I'm just this young kid in the lab, because I lived in Woolkit, and there was tons of bullfrogs. So my brothers and I used to sort of like play the movies. We'd actually charged the neighborhood kids 10 cents, and we'd go in the ponds like, oh my God, the frogs are coming to get me. And then that went very well until one of the kids got mad and told my mother we had to give all the money back. But
I remember you telling me about that with the Jaws. I think the Jaws episode we talked about.
The Jaws too. And then we had another one called Killer Seaweed. That was an original. We grabbed the gunk from the bottom of the pond. It's got me.
I think that's a movie Elmwood has to make.
Yes.
There we go. There's our next short film.
That's it.
Let's do it this summer. I'm not even joking. Let's just do it. Anyways, but yeah. So you saw it as a kid. I was 26, I think, when I first saw it. So.
Yeah. But the thing is, I have not seen it in so long. I bought it on DVD, so I probably saw it maybe in the late 90s. Yeah. And it was funny because I was watching it again to refresh my memory for this. And I said, which one's Sam Elliott? And it didn't occur to me until maybe like 10 minutes in. Not when he was on the canoe in the very beginning. It was when he started talking. I said, oh my God, that's Sam Elliott. It's so funny. I'm so used to
no
with
beard,
the mustache and the gray hair.
It's the clean shaven throws you off completely. Yeah. he became such a character in and of himself as the years went on. Like
Oh yeah.
he becomes famous until the 80s, you know. So it was 10 years later before he had like a hit movie, I think. Like that was where it was a Sam Elliott movie, you know.
Yeah.
And then I rewatched it for so we could do this like 3 weeks ago. I think it might be on Shudder. I know I watched it on one of the streamings. I think it's Shudder.
Hmm.
Um, and I was just like, because I hadn't seen it since 2001 or two. Like I said, so it's been 20 something years. I'm watching it like I need to buy this. I need to own this. It's what I need to have it in my collection. And it's just like the story. I mean, it's an ecological terror story.
Yeah.
These guys have been dumping chemicals in the swamp, and it's the animals are finally coming back to get you. But it's called frogs, and the frogs have nothing to do with killing people. And even at the end, they're not killing anybody.
No,
They're
I
just
know.
they're just a menace because there's so many of them. It's the other animals that are killing everybody. Like I just think they didn't know what to call the movie.
I know. They can't call it like iguana, snakes.
Or they can't, or you know, the swamp terror. I mean, that's probably a better title.
Yeah, I
But
like
like
that.
but they called it frogs, and like, and I was laughing about that because like for my own career, we made a movie called Head because we couldn't think of a better title. I'm like, they just couldn't think of a better title, and I guess that's happened to other people. But like, and then there's some big ass frogs in that movie, like you know, like you're like holy shit. And you were saying when we were talking before we got on camera and through text today, like Ray Milan, or Millard,
Yes.
Milan, Millard, Millard,
Milan. Milan.
Millard.
Who's I
Or was it
know him.
last night?
What was that?
You had no.
No, what I wanted to say was that I saw him in a Billy Wilder movie, Lost Weekend, years ago.
Yeah, because he was around forever.
Yeah, yeah.
This was not a new movie. This was not a new thing. Him being in movies like this
Oh yeah,
was
definitely. That was in the
history.
'50s. That movie I saw
Yeah,
last week was, but
yeah,
and he plays the funniest character. He's the patriarch of the family.
yep,
All he cares about is the Fourth of July. It's his birthday. He could
yep.
care less about anything else. And you and I were talking off the
People
air.
are fucking dying, and he's like, "Shh, my party."
I know.
Like,
They said because the whole in the beginning of the movie they were complaining about the frogs are so loud. So he sends his friend Grover out to see what's going on, and
yep, Grover never comes back.
Yeah, and Sam Elliott's character, which is Pickett Smith, is his name,
Okay.
and he goes,
That's
"Yeah,
just a Sam Elliott character name too. Like every character he's ever played should be named Pickett Smith. You know, like
I know." And he goes out there and he goes, "We got to talk about Grover. I found his body. Shh. I don't want him to ruin my party."
yeah, like
So,
and it's like I'm sure that character, from like a writer's standpoint, the Ray Milan character was written to come off like an angry, bitter old man who just wants things his way. But the way he played it was like he did do that, but it was like I think the way he played it was so much smarter as an actor. Like it was like he wasn't trying. He was an angry, bitter old man, but he was also there's like this level of paranoia
yeah,
that's like underneath the surface, and the fact that he won't leave at the end, and it wasn't because he felt guilt, it was because he wouldn't admit to defeat,
yeah,
like a certain former president. He wouldn't admit defeat. He'll lie his way through it, like you know,
yeah.
like if I keep lying people will believe me, nothing's wrong. And that's what he kept doing, and it was just like oh, I like the movie. I would watch it 100 more times.
Oh
Like
yeah, no, you know what?
I've got to track it down and buy it. There's got to be some weird special edition Blu-ray at this point. I will buy that. Like
And
right
that's a
away.
movie I was talking about. It's like it's not trying to be campy. He was trying to make a good movie
No.
because in the '70s, I don't know if people they called it eco horror. In the '70s, they had tons
Yeah.
of because and around that time, I looked it up. The EPA was founded in 1970. Earth Day was
Yep.
founded in 1970. Then they had remember
Yep.
the crying Indian with the trash. So,
They were
pollution.
showing that ad well into the 80s and 90s.
Yeah, yeah.
So
But it started in the '70s. I remember
yep.
that. But then all these movies came out saying where nature is getting their revenge for the way we treated the plant, like Day of the Animal, The Swarm, Kingdom of the
The
Spiders,
Swarm.
Prophecy, Bug, which is not the movie with Ashley Judd. There's another one with Bruce Dern. You got to check it out. It came out in
Yeah, that I know that
1985.
movie. Yep.
Love that movie. So all these movies that came out in the '70s were all about
There was one
nature
with the
getting their
ants. What was
revenge.
that one?
Which was Tarantula or no, it's Kingdom of the Spiders.
No, there was one with just ants. Maybe it was
Oh,
just called Ants.
Empire of the Ants. With
No, with Suzanne Summers was in it.
oh, Ant.
It's just called Ant. Okay,
Yeah,
yeah, yeah,
yeah.
yeah.
It's actually, I watched that movie because I interviewed Linda Day George, and she's in that
Yeah.
movie. So
Yep.
that's why when I said I want to do my research on her, I just bought it. I said I don't care. This title is great. It's such a fun movie. Another one. So that was this movie is right up there with that. It's just an eco and it was, I guess they said it was $500,000 was the budget.
Yeah, I looked into it was low budget, and they shot it all in this one guy's one government property. Somebody, it was the government owned the property, right? The building and
I
everything.
think so, yeah. And
Like
then
maybe it was a library or a museum. It was some government building though, that they were allowed to shoot it at.
yeah, but
Like,
it's funny because like most of the animals is just stock footage. Like they're
yeah,
showing the frog and the
it's just yeah,
snake
just saying a
iguana just
swamp. There's nothing menacing about it.
yeah.
Yeah,
But
and then there's a shot of the dead guy.
yeah.
Like the animals did it. Well, we didn't. Are you sure? He just wasn't didn't trip. You know, like you said, it was campy, but it wasn't played for camp.
No,
It
not
was
at all.
completely straight. They thought I don't think anyone involved in this movie thought they were making an Academy Award winning movie, obviously. Because there's some real campy stuff with like the brother and his girlfriend who's the model. Like that is over the top stuff.
I want
But
to talk
like
about that because that I think was groundbreaking for that time. 1972, having an
she
interracial
was
couple.
black. Yeah,
Yeah.
it was an interracial couple, and there was no question about it. There was no reference. It was just they were. There was no like, well, he's dating a black woman. No, it was just that.
Yeah.
I noticed. I thought that was really cool that they didn't even try to make an issue out of it. Like much like Night of the Living Dead, that was probably the best actor they got.
Yep.
You know, so don't make it part of the story because it wasn't in the first place. You know, like yeah. But that was just like, but that was super campy. All that was like super campy. Like
Well, the
yeah,
lines too, I laugh so hard where he says, "You know what? My wife married me because look, I'm a football hero," and he was, "I'm the same weight that I was back in high school."
oh yeah. Well,
She's a little heavy though, or no, was it a little wrinkly or a little couple wrinkles around the
and
eyes
like
for her.
and the Pickett Smith character Samuel, it's like like he's like I don't give a fuck, just get me a clean car close so I can leave. I don't want to be here. You guys dragged me here because you're assholes. I just want my camera back. You know, he just wanted to get his camera and leave.
I
And
know.
then he's like, I don't know. I still don't know why he stuck around. Like, there's no logical reason for him to stick around, even in the script. At no point is he like, oh, this girl's so cute. I want to stay. Nothing. He just, I guess I'm staying now.
Well, I think Joan Van Ark was all over him. She was
Well, yeah, but it was like, but he didn't act like he cared about her one bit.
no, not at all.
Yeah. So it was just like, there was no like hint of like him being interested in her to stay. He just stayed. Like, it was like, well, maybe you should stay the night. Okay. Like, yeah.
It's funny too. Remember that old Eddie Murphy joke? He was talking about like well, white people always get killed in these horror movies because you go into a haunted house, you're like, oh, see, hear that? Yeah, it seems like a great place. Black people are like, hear that? Let's get the hell out of here. In this
Yeah,
movie, it was the same thing. Mabel and the butler said, we're out of here. Everything's going crazy, and everybody else is like, "Oh, come on, don't leave, not yet."
yeah.
They take off, and I thought that was,
They were the smartest ones in the whole movie.
yeah, I love Mabel. She was so great.
Yeah.
And now she was the one with they had the snake on the chandelier, I think, right?
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And the other, I'm just going through. I'm trying to think of all the different lines that made me laugh. One of the other ones was, "Hey, look what I have!" And look at the bullfrogs, not the very end. The other
Right,
one.
not the kid at the end. Yeah.
And he's like, "Put that bullfrog down!" He starts screaming, yelling. Then he goes, "Come here." Yeah, you're right. That was a big frog. And it's like,
Yeah, like you, that was a big front. No shit. Like, it's just like I don't know who. I actually want to look it up. I don't know who wrote it. Do you know who wrote it?
no, I have the director's name.
Okay.
George McGowan directed it, and I don't have the writer.
I'm looking it up right now because that writer needs to take writing classes. Uh, I don't know who either of these guys are. Robert Hutchinson and Robert Blees. I wonder what else they've done. I'm going. I'm going to IMDb right now because I'm just curious. Robert Hutchinson also did. He's known for Frogs, Outside In, which I've never heard of, and Nightmare Classics.
So basically, frogs.
Yeah, Nightmare Classics was a TV show. Outside In was the same year as Frogs. Young man fled to Canada to avoid being drafted and goes home for his dad's funeral. So it's probably more of a drama. Doesn't look very good.
Yeah.
The other writer?
Well, it's funny. The director of George McGowan is from Canada. He's a Canadian, and I guess he did a lot of TV shows. He was more of a. You
Okay.
can tell the way it was filmed too. I think there was more.
It felt very TV, yeah.
He Charlie's Angels, SWAT, Mod Squad, Streets of San Francisco, Fancy Island, Heart to Heart.
Yeah, he was
So-
like a great working director. Yeah.
Yeah, and it's just I'm trying to think. So Sam Elliott, Joan Van Ark, Adam Rourke is another good actor. He was the one that played Clint.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, he was in a lot of stuff. Yeah.
Yeah. And I was trying to do it. I said I looked him up because I said I know I've seen him. Trying to figure out where I saw him, and I found out that his real name was Jordan Grant, and the Universal forced him to change his name. They're like, we already have one too many Grants in the show business, Cary Grant, so he changed it to Adam Rourke, which I don't know. I don't know
It's
how he
not. I
got
would have
that
stuck with
work
it.
out of
But he
that,
was in
but
like a couple Corman films, I think, too, wasn't he? Like
I think so. Yeah.
on IMDb. Yeah, he was in Dirty Mary,
Yes.
Crazy Mary. Yeah,
Which I love
okay.
that movie.
Yeah.
So is yeah, he was the original. Actually, he was a communications officer, Garrison, the original Star Trek pilot
Star
too.
Trek. Yep.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, so
So
he did a lot of good stuff. And then the model was Judy Pace was her name. That's the one we talked about with the interracial couple. She was in a lot of blaxploitation movies in the 70s,
yep.
like
Oh yeah,
playing
yeah.
in Peyton Place.
That's right. She was in that.
Yeah,
Wow.
so there was it was
And
fun
she
and
was, I think she was in the Kung Fu show for a couple episodes too.
probably yeah.
I remember looking her up after after I watched it, like looked up a couple of cast members, but yeah, because she looked familiar, so I feel like that's where I probably would have saw her. But yeah, that's a fun movie. I highly recommend it to people. Like it's one of those movies that like if it had come out 3 years later or 4 years later, Jaws and Post, there would have been like 8 sequels to this movie.
Oh my
It
god,
would have
yeah.
been one of those. Or if it came out like 1980, there would have been Frogs, Frogs 2, Frogs from Space. Like it just would have kept going. And they would have just gotten like way weirder and probably like in some ways maybe better made because they would have bigger budget for the second one if the first one did well. But like this is and I look at it now, I'm like, man, like Hollywood wants to remake everything. Remake movies that didn't land but had cool ideas. Remake Frogs.
Yeah,
Don't remake The Crow. Remake Frogs. You know,
exactly.
Crow was fine. Don't do that. Remake Frogs. Don't remake Nightmare on Elm Street. Remake Frogs.
Yes.
You know, like because that movie, as good as it is, could benefit from a new version.
Oh my
You
god,
know,
yeah. And then they could do it. I think that that's a movie that a lot of times I say, just don't mess with a classic. You can't really do any better.
right?
This one I think they actually could do better, and I would still always
And
love
it wouldn't take anything away from the original.
exactly.
My Bloody Valentine.
Yes,
I think the remake of that was awesome. They did some different stuff. They did the 3D thing, which, but they didn't ruin the original by doing a remake because they made it stand on its own.
and Piranha.
And
That's another one.
Piranha, and Piranha was also kind of a goof to start with.
Yeah,
So going over the top with Piranha and then making all those goofy sequels was just half the fun of it. Like, and he doesn't ruin the originals in any way, shape, or form at all. You know,
yeah,
because you're not trying to recreate a certain Freddy Krueger, for example, or Leatherface. The villain is a shark or a fish, or in this case, wildlife and frogs, like
yeah.
lizards. And like, there's no like iconic frog, you know, that's murdering people. There's an iconic frog right over my head, but he's not murdering anybody. Yeah,
He does look pretty angry though. I don't know.
that hat, and the
I
other
would
one in his lap. You
I
know,
would sleep with one eye open with that one.
he's always got Freddy's hat on, so we got to watch out.
So in this movie, there was to me, a lot of great kills. What was your favorite?
I think you know, for me, the end when Ray Millar just gives up and
Yes.
just falls out of his wheelchair, and the frogs just cover him because he's not even going to die from that. He's just given up, and for me, that's just fun. Like I'm just gonna lay here and let these fucking things smother me because frogs aren't gonna bite you to death. They're gonna gum you
No.
to death. Like so, the only way you're gonna die now is just by laying there and just letting yourself die. And you know, like in my brain, it was like, oh, they could have done a sequel because he could have survived that and then been mad and gone for revenge on his family or whatever. But like whatever, that was probably my favorite kill
Yeah.
because it was just like so absurd that he was gonna be murdered by frogs.
Well,
Does
my
that make
favorite
sense?
part, yeah, no, it does. My favorite part about that scene is throughout the whole movie, you're like, oh, make a phone call. The phones are dead. But then at the very end, the phone rings. He picks up. There's
Yep.
nobody. It's like, what are the frogs doing prank calls?
Yeah, it's what it was. The animals were calling him to mess with him. That's exactly what it was. And it's just like so stupid. I love it.
That was
Oh,
great. I think
what about you? Your favorite?
I want to say the moss. When the moss enveloped him.
Oh my God.
It was so he's like for 10 minutes.
Ah! Just get up and run. We've seen so many of these movies. We're almost jaded, but we love them too much. You know, like we're watching it going, all right, yeah.
All they're showing is the close up of the tarantula's mouth going. It's nowhere near
Yeah.
the guy. It's like it's stock footage they're using from something else, and they're trying to match it with the kill, and it's not
Yep.
doesn't really match at all. But I don't even know how the moss came to life, enveloped
Yeah.
him, and then
Because moss takes years to grow like that. It's not like he can just jump up and attack you. You know, like the grandfather again was more likely to be killed by moss because he just lays there. Like,
I like the
oh.
aunt too. I forgot what her name was, but the aunt that goes who likes butterflies. She's going
Oh
butterflies.
yes, that was a good one. That was actually a good one. I should have said that one. because that
Well,
was probably actually my
if you
favorite.
watch the trailer, they show that she falls in the quicksand. That's how she died in the original, but they changed that scene.
They
And
edited it.
yeah,
Okay.
they
You
kept
know
it in the
why?
trailer.
Do
No,
you know
that
why?
I don't know why. It didn't say
Maybe for
why.
pacing. Maybe to make the movie move faster. Maybe.
Maybe. Yeah, I'm not. They didn't say why, but I looked it up, and they're like, "Oh yeah, if you notice, that wasn't the original death that she
Oh.
encountered." I said, "Oh," so I rewatched the trailer and I saw that. But
Apparently, quicksand wasn't believable.
maybe I don't know. But then one of my favorite scenes though is when was it the kids' parents are on the boat. The boat is there, but mommy and daddy are going. They're like, forget about that. Come on, let's go.
Yeah. Oh yeah, they just keep going. Yeah. Or when he jumps out of the boat to shoot at the eel, was it eels?
Yes.
Well, yeah, and it's like, and he's like
Yeah.
swinging, and they're, but it's like, dude, why'd you get out of the? Why did he got? Oh, he got stuck. That's what it was. They get
He got
stuck,
stuck. Yeah.
and it's just like, or just use the oars, or use the gun you have to push yourself out of being stuck. But it's just like, I get it, more danger, more excitement to have him jump in the water. But I'm just like, oh my god, he's only they could be coming from behind him, and he never shoots behind him. It's just like, oh, this is great. This is great.
I know.
But it
And
was
then
a little bit of suspense there. I was like, "Holy shit, is he going to make it?" I couldn't remember the end, so because I hadn't seen it. Like, is he going to make it? Are they going to get him? And he's going to save the boat and then get eaten, and then they're going to live, like the mom and kid, or like or the girl. It wasn't his kid, her kid. It was the nephew. Her
yeah, it was nothing.
nephew and her are
Yeah.
going to live. Like, and I'm like, "Oh no, he does live. Okay."
Well,
Pickett makes it, but he never gets his camera back.
I know, but well, I want to talk about the next scene in a second, but I want to talk about like I felt bad because then they find Mabel in the butler's clothing, so they show that they didn't make it out. As I was
Yeah,
hoping that, because they're the first ones, like you guys are crazy, we're out of here.
yeah.
Come on,
I was like, that would have been great sequel fodder if they made it out, though. You
yeah.
know, before the sequel, the five of them are still surviving or whatever, but
Yeah.
it
But no,
wasn't.
the next scene is probably one of my favorites because it's so unbelievable. He's over there, he's got this huge shotgun in his hand. All of a sudden, he stops his car. We need help. The mother's like, "Oh yeah, come on, get in the car."
Yeah, you got a shotgun and you're soaking wet. I'm like, drop the fucking gun. You're not getting in my car. Give me the gun. Maybe I'll let you in my car. You know, like, 70s were a different time.
And
Yeah.
then of course, like without giving anything away, the because I'm sure if people haven't seen it yet, if you wait, if you haven't seen it yet, go watch it and then come back and watch the rest of this.
Right.
When the kid, she picks up her son from summer camp, and the
Yes,
kid's
that's
like,
what it was. Summer
"Mommy,
camp.
look what I got!" in this big bullfrog, and they just do the freeze frame. That's it.
Yeah, like that's gonna be the most terrifying thing and then the movie on.
Well, because she makes this
Uh,
comment, she's like, I haven't seen anything on the roads in a while. It's been very quiet." So they're basically making
yeah,
it seem like the frogs killed everybody.
taking over everything. Yeah, just get the fuck out of there.
Did you ever? I'm sure you saw the William Shatner Kingdom of the Spiders.
Yes.
All right. Do you remember that ending? That was probably one of my favorite
No,
endings of.
I don't remember the. I saw that again probably 20 years ago.
All right.
So
The ending of it where
a double feature with Groom Lake, in fact.
yeah, well, they're stuck in the hotel,
Okay.
and he opens up the door, and over to the hotel where they is a huge web. They're stuck inside the web, and it ends.
That's right.
I love those kinds.
That's
of
a more
endings.
effective ending though, because that whole like, you know, we're never gonna make it ending, you know,
Yeah.
like you're fucked anyway, so running the movie here, like yeah. Oh yeah, but this was the supposed to have that same kind of effect, and it just doesn't.
Yeah.
Just
No.
kid
Like,
holding a frog.
it's
Oh,
so
okay.
hard to make a frog scary.
Right. I think that's part of it too. It's like a straightforward frog. If you're gonna like turn it into a demon or like if they're gonna chemically enhance it, so it's like steroid frog and it's
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
got teeth down, all that, like make a horror, like make a critter out of it or a gremlin out of it. Okay. But just a regular frog is not scary. They're slimy and weird, but they're not scary.
Should have been Frankenfrog.
Yeah, that would be really funny. Want a date?
Well, before we get to that one, I
Yeah.
want to talk more about the whole
Yeah.
70s vibe with the eco horror. Do you have a favorite of that? Because I grew up. I mean, you and I are pretty much the same age. You're a couple years
Yeah,
younger.
I'm a little younger
Like
than you, but not by much. Yeah.
I saw
No, I
all those
actually
movies in the theater.
yeah, see, I was born in 75. So I
Okay, yeah,
didn't yeah, you know, I didn't really my parents didn't really take me to a movie till I was 78, you know, until
okay,
3 years. I was 3 years old because you don't bring a 2 year old to the movie theater.
yeah,
Respect
yes,
for other movie fans, you know. But in 78, I was going to see the reissue of Pinocchio. I wasn't like, you know, so I missed the boat and a lot of that. So for me, the horror in the theater was the slasher era, was, you know, Halloween 2 and 3 and
yeah.
you know, Friday the 13th and Nightmare on Elm Street, like that, and the Stephen King movie era, like the 80s Stephen King movies. I saw like all those in the theater in the 80s. Like, but I don't really have a favorite eco terror movie, I don't think, just because the genre, I don't know if I've seen a lot. Does that make sense? Or I haven't thought about anything. Because a lot of times I'm thinking about like as a science fiction thing as opposed to eco terror. Like, I don't know, what's your favorite? Then I'll go watch it.
I
Oh,
would have to say, check out The Swarm. And I want to
I've
remember
seen the Swarm. Yeah,
the reason I'm saying, because like that, I think that's Irwin Allen, which he
it's got
always,
to be.
and he does the reason, and he has like, they can never do a movie like that anymore because they wouldn't be able to afford it because they had so many stars. I mean, off back, I
Yeah,
think of like Fred McMurray, Henry Fonda. I mean, if you look it up right now, you'll see a list of like of 10 leading actors.
leading actors all having like supporting roles to each other in this movie. It was like an Avengers movie in a way, where every actors could do their own movie too, but they're in this one. But they all have smaller parts because of it. Yeah.
Yeah. And
Well,
the other one I think is probably Bug with Brewster. I remember seeing it at the Lake Drive-In in Woolcott. I was 7 years old. So the year you were born, I
nice.
saw it at the
Yeah.
drive-in because and I'm sure said this plenty of times, I was 7 years old when Jaws came out, and my father took us to see it. Because I actually I found it the other.
Yep.
Next time I'm going to bring it with you. I actually used to have like a book. It's actually let me show you really quick. If I can find it. It's a Star Wars. Yeah, look at this. The original from 1977. Star Wars.
Oh my gosh, like a notebook.
Yeah, so I have.
Spiral notebook.
I know you can't see it, but I have every single movie I've ever seen at
At
that
that
time.
point, like you'd write them down in that book.
Yeah, so like I just go.
So
Let's go over a little bit. So I have actually the time I saw The Exorcist for the first time. It was at the Watertown Drive in 1980, I think it was. But it's just so the reason I bring up because I have it documented. I saw Jaws 17 times that year in the theater. My father's like, "Hey, do you want to go to school?" I'm like, "No, not really. You want to go see Jaws with me?" And then the teacher next day, "Oh, you weren't in school. We took it, so we went to go see Jaws." And they called my house. I told you to fucking lie. And my brother was 4 years old. I was older. I was the oldest. And he's like, I want to see Bambi. Stop being such a baby. Go see Jaws with me. So
I remember being pulled out of school when I was in eighth grade to go see Last Crusade.
what is that?
Last Crusade.
Oh
That
yeah.
was the first time I remember being pulled out of school for a movie. My mom, it was came out like on a Wednesday, which
Yeah.
back then that was a big deal. If the movie wasn't a Friday night, they were putting it on a Wednesday. It was the Wednesday before Memorial Day, so they were putting it out the week before on Wednesday. And my mom was like, "I'm pulling you out of school. You're not even going to school today. We're gonna grab your brother. And the three of us are gonna go." I'm like,
All right.
I was jazzed for that movie,
Yeah.
so it was exciting. But
Yeah. Now I was looking, and when people say, "I can't believe your parents let you do that," I think I was so jaded by the time I was 10 years old because I saw Phantasm, I saw Evil Dead, I saw Jaws, all these different movies. I saw The Exorcist. By the time I was 10 or 11 years old, I'm like, it never really affected me.
yes, I was of that original like you're saying HBO era, like in some ways too, because being born in '75, cable TV hit our
Yeah,
area around '79. We were the first people I think in our block to have cable TV too, and we got HBO and the movie channel as well.
yeah,
And like I knew my parent the time my parents went to bed, and I was a weird kid, and so I'd go downstairs at 3 in the morning and turn the TV on and see whatever was on these and back then like your regular channels weren't showing anything. They were just had the static or the bars or
yeah,
whatever. Some of the other local non-network affiliates would have weird movies on the middle of the night too. I remember Channel 20 wasn't a network; it was its own independent here in Connecticut. WPXX I think is what it was called then,
yeah.
or TXX,
TXX,
WTXX, TXX.
WTXX.
Yeah, and they would have crazy stuff on all night long and things. But I remember like for me a lot of the horror movies that I saw because we weren't going to theaters to see a lot of horror movies yet because my parents would take us to see different things. Like I saw Raiders when it was new. I saw Star Wars. Like,
Yeah,
even though my parents were into horror, they didn't take us to see it all. I saw some horror when I was little, but like not like by the time I was 9, they were letting me. They'd really given up because they realized I was watching this shit in the middle of the night anyways. Like so, and I was also the original VHS era. So were you.
yes,
So like
yep,
renting movies, like, and there was no Blockbuster. You went to real video stores, and they had the real independent underground stuff. That's because everyone was making movies for that market. It
yeah,
was like that was new. Like straight to video was a big deal, and especially in the mid '80s going forward. And so I remember like just walking in the video store and just whatever look at the box and go, I'm renting that. There was
that's
no way to
funny.
find reviews. Like, and I remember going in Elmwood, we had Video Galaxy 5. I don't know where the other video galaxies were, but we had number 5 in Elmwood. And I remember seeing the Frogs box on the shelf and just never renting it. Just whatever, just never, it was one of those. Like, and then I saw it years later. I'm like, God damn it. I would have loved this even more when I was 10.
Oh,
It's
I
one of those,
know.
but also that movie is paced of its time. Like, it's a slow paced movie. It's a slow burn. There's no explosions. There's no, like, it's not what movies became
Yeah.
as time,
And it's
you know,
maybe because of our age, I actually appreciate movies like I'd rather have a slow burn, like
yes.
somewhat of a plot, and instead of just like nonstop explosion after explosion. That's entertaining for a
Yeah.
little while. I'd like to have something like another movie that reminds me of that is Tourist Trap. I don't know if you saw that movie.
I've seen Tourist Trap, and that's a very slow burn,
Very
like
slow
build
burn.
up. Raiders of the Lost Ark,
Yeah.
Potions Behind It. That movie is not. And I mean, there's that opening scene is just full of adventure, but it takes forever to get to the arc. It's a slow build up to that because you're learning about characters, and Frogs has that. It has character development. You get to know every single character. They're not just a prop to kill.
Yeah, yeah.
They are a prop to kill, but like you're there, you get to know every single person there, and they don't spend that kind of time in movies now.
No,
For a
because
lot of movies, yeah.
yeah. Well, I bring this up usually when I interview my guests, and we always talk about the ADD nation. People just want it fast. Boom, I'm out of here. I always laugh when people say, "Oh man, these movies are longer." They're complaining about how the ticket prices are going up, but then they complain that the movies are longer. It's like, what do you want? I said, their movies are prices are going up, but you get a 3.5 hour movie now.
But also, some of these movies, like the reason why they're doing 3.5 hour movies now is because you can sit on your couch for 3.5 hours
Exactly.
and binge a whole season of a show.
Yeah.
Movies are trying to compete with that mentality, but some movies don't need to be
No, I agree
three
with
and a half
that.
hours.
Less is more.
So like I went to see what was the last movie I saw in the theater recently that would like qualify for like holy shit that was long. Um, I mean like
Yeah, no,
drawing a
I know what you're saying. And one
but it was
example,
long. But when it was over, I'm like, okay, I don't really feel like I wait. It didn't feel like 2.5 hours. Was it Scream through the new Scream movie?
that was
Whatever
I,
it was something that
I actually
just
enjoyed that.
saw. I liked it a lot. I mean, I like the Scream movies, and I think that they're doing everything right with these sequels that the Halloween sequels fucked up, and I still like the Halloween sequels.
Yeah,
Scream's just doing a better job of it, like of that legacy thing, and like they're doing, maybe they're learning from watching the Halloweens too, but I just watched something that was like 2 hours and 15 minutes. And it went by quick. So I'm like, okay, this made sense. But then I'm watching it as like a filmmaker, and I'm like, I would have cut an hour out of that, and it wouldn't have changed the movie.
yeah, no, I definitely agree with that. And because some movies, like you said, when I'm looking at like, oh, is this ever gonna end? And that's it's too long. Other movies like you said, Scream is a perfect example. It's like, wow, it's already over, and it's just
Yeah.
kept on going and going. And
And that was just over 2 hours, I think, but it didn't. It kept going, it kept moving. But there was some stuff that I would have cut though, for sure, as an
I
editor. But like, it wasn't my movie to make. So
well, I like that quote, and I'm gonna mess it up, but the quote by Alfred Hitchcock is like, "Don't make a movie longer than your bladder can handle," or something to that effect.
yeah, make it too short to suck too. So if
Yeah,
you
yeah,
feel like there's something that doesn't need to be there, get rid of it. But yeah, yeah, I hate getting up to go pee in a movie if I like the movie.
exactly.
This
You know
season,
what?
but I got to pee.
An example of that is I just saw it recently. It's Robert Rodriguez came out with a new movie. I didn't even realize it was him until the end. It's called
Oh,
Hypnotic.
the one with Ben Affleck.
And yeah, the guy, Ben Affleck, and the other guy that I actually met. Oh, he didn't even tell me he was in the movie. The guy he plays in the movie Mom with oh my God, my mind went blank on it. But you would know who Michael Fitchner, I think his
Oh,
name is.
okay, yeah,
Yeah, he plays the bad guy, but it's such a great movie. I'm like, I can't. I just because I'm an AMC A-lister, so I pay $20.
yeah.
So I just see all these movies, and at the end it
Go to
said
go, yeah.
written and directed by Robert Rodriguez. Like, whoa, no wonder why it's so good because I love his work.
They didn't really promote that movie really well
No,
though.
not at
Like I
all.
remember like hearing it was coming out and then it was gone. And I'm like, wait, it actually came out? Like I didn't
Yeah,
even because I'm a Ben Affleck fan. Like
me too. Wow,
I'm a fan of him. Like, yeah, I'm a big Ben Affleck fan.
you
So
and
I
I are
was
the
like,
only two.
no, there's a lot of people, they just like to shit on him too. So he wouldn't be the Dunkin' Donuts spokesman if everybody hated him,
I love that.
you know,
Yeah,
there's a reason there's people like him. But but I just missed the boat on it. Like, and I love Robert Rodriguez. I knew it was a Robert Rodriguez movie, but I was like, oh yeah, when that comes out, I'll go see it. And then somebody's like, oh yeah, I saw it. I'm like, wait, you saw it? It's gone. I'm like, what? It's gone. I'm like,
it was a
yeah,
weekend. That's
yeah.
that's what kills me. It's like
And it was original. It wasn't based on a comic book. It wasn't a
no,
sequel. It was an original movie. And like please give us more original movies. Like Frogs is an original movie. Give us
Yeah.
Frogs again. Like give
Yes.
us more original stuff. Like,
Exactly. And
but
I.
also look at like it's Tuesday now. Flash came out this past week.
Yep.
And they're calling it a bomb already. It made its budget back, but it didn't make the gazillions they were hoping for. It's like, well, also you've told everyone that this is it. We're not doing these characters anymore. We're gonna start fresh. So people aren't invested. Then you have this guy who's like torturing people and robbing people as your lead actor. Who's gonna give you money to see that movie?
Mm-hmm.
Like his publicity is in the tank, and he's never come out publicly and like, yeah, I was on drugs and screwed up, and I'm sorry, I'm fixing things. No, he's just like, oh, not going to say anything at all. Like, fix your reputation. People aren't going to support your movie.
Yep.
Like, and then you're like, you hype up the fact that you're bringing Michael Keaton back, who's my all-time favorite Batman.
Mm-hmm.
But then you're openly saying, we were going to bring him back for a whole series of films, but now we're not. Then why would I want to go see this?
I know.
And they made another whole movie they're not releasing with him.
Well,
Like,
is there a
okay,
reason? I
they,
didn't
they,
hear. What was the reason?
they made Batgirl, and he played Batman in that, and they shelved the movie. It's done. It's sitting on a shelf, and it'll never get released.
But what was the reason why they didn't want to release it?
It was made for HBO Max, which is fine. It was gonna be a straight to streaming movie, and they decided they didn't want to do that anymore. They weren't going to go theatrical, but the movie wasn't good enough for a theatrical release. So they're going to write it off as it's. But what they're doing is they just want to reboot the whole thing and start fresh. But like, then cancel them all.
No, exactly. Well, what kills me is with the perfect example of that too is Han Solo or Solo. That
I
movie,
liked Solo,
me
but
too. It was really good, and just because it only made $50 million compared to 88, $150 million, whatever it was.
opening weekend. But like,
Yeah,
give a movie a chance to breathe too, and also look like now, like people hated Solo when it came out, and now those same people are like, I want a Solo series on Disney Plus with him playing Solo.
he
The
was. I
same
like
people
it. Yeah,
who
and
hated it
that's
when it came out now want him to play him in a series. It's like, yeah, because you went back and watched it again and went, shit, that movie's actually pretty good. It
yeah,
was just too much Star Wars at once, and I get that. There were too many movies in the theater too quick.
yeah.
But like, and now I think rumor is he's going to be in one of the new movies as Solo again, as Han Solo.
Good because I think he deserves it. I thought he was really
There
good.
should have been a
I like the
trilogy.
movie.
In my opinion, that should have been a trilogy.
Yeah,
Ending with him sitting in the cantina as Luke and Ben and walk in. That's where it should have ended.
yeah.
Make 3 movies that end where they meet him in the first Star Wars movie. That would have been the perfect way to make a trilogy. Show his progression to joining the rebellion and end it there. Because then you know what happens after that because you've seen the rest of the movies,
Well,
That
it
would have
kills
been
me. They have
perfect. You
theaters
write these
now that
fucking
have.
movies.
Yeah, well, they have theaters that have 20, multiplexes that have 20 cinemas theaters in there, and a movie lasts a weekend in there. Back in the 70s, they had one theater. A movie would last 3 years. Jaws played for 3, 4 years. Star Wars played probably for 5 years.
The
No,
Elm. We were talking about the theater I grew up going to. The Elm in West Hartford had 2 screens.
yeah.
Raiders of the Lost Ark played there until Temple of Doom came out.
Mm-hmm.
But it didn't play every single day, but it played every weekend as at least one of the matinees. It played there Monday through Friday, Saturday, Sunday for like the first year.
Yeah.
And then it was always at least a matinee every weekend. Sometimes they bring it back for the whole week, depending on what else was available. But it was there until Temple of Doom came out. When
Yeah.
it was a one-screen theater, The Sound of Music played there for 8 years straight.
Exactly. So they could
Not
do
every
it.
single night, but it was played there every week for 8 years straight, at least one night a week.
Yeah.
Like, or something like that. Maybe it was 9 years, but it was in like, but also you have 20 screens and you're showing 6 movies
Exactly.
because you've got the same Marvel movie on 6 screens.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Why?
You don't really need that. I know. I agree with you. It just.
But we have the IMAX version, then we have the Dolby Digital version, then we have the Dolby Dark with the better surround version. Pick which one you want to go to. No, just put it in one of them.
Yeah.
And just show other movies. Like, yeah.
I know.
I keep talking about opening a movie theater, and I just part of me just wants to open a movie theater just to show independent films.
Yes, let me. I'd love to put some money and invest some money in that
Let's
because
do a
there's so
Kickstarter.
many great. I think one of the best times for movies I thought was during COVID, and I'll tell you what I mean was because there was a lot of movies that weren't being made, so they were showing a lot more independent and low budget movies. I saw so many great movies that nobody even
Yeah.
heard of. They're like, how'd you hear about that? I said, I just went to the movies and I checked it out,
And
I
that's what
loved
was
it.
showing. And yeah,
And
like,
then there was so many great movies that came out around that time that nobody even knows of, and they never would have been played in the
this
AMC.
because movies weren't being made, so they needed movies to show, and they were looking for the smaller. And like, the superhero thing is starting to fall apart. We're totally off topic now, which is fine. But the superhero thing is
We
starting to
always
fall
do
apart.
that, you know that.
Yeah. The superhero thing is starting to fall apart. And so the big budget insanity of the franchises are falling apart. And like, what's going to be next? You know, you look at the same thing happened in the early 90s, mid to early 90s, and then the independent films really blew up. I feel like we're going to hit another wave of that, where a lot of younger, your Robert Rodriguez's, your Kevin Smiths, your
Yeah.
Tarantino's of the next generation are going to just come out and be like, no, we're going to use our own voice. I don't need to make a Marvel movie. I don't want to make a DC movie. I don't want, and I don't hate these movies. Like, people think I'm like, fuck this shit, fuck superhero movies. Man, if you told me tomorrow you're going to make a whole new Batman movie with Michael Keaton, actually it would be a Batman movie, I'm the first guy in line.
Yeah.
Next Friday, I'm going to be the first guy at Indiana Jones. Like, I'm the first guy to go see a Star Wars, but I'm not, and I was at Scream opening night, you know, I'm not an anti-franchise. I'm not, but like, it's a burnout when you do too much of it.
Mm-hmm. No, exactly.
Let's get some fresh movies, some fresh ideas too. Like, everything's a remake, a sequel, a reboot, a spin-off.
Yeah.
Like,
Well, you know what's funny, because you obviously people who watch the show know that you and I are both huge Kevin Smith fans, and he always said he goes, people, these studios could give a shit less about the content of the movie. All they care about is the title. The title gets people's asses on the seat in the seat. They make their money that first weekend, then boom, they're out. So
Kevin Smith said about his own movies.
Yeah.
Around the same time, when Zack and Miri came out, I think he said, made a quote. He's like, or maybe it was even when Jay and Silent Bob Strike Back came out. It might have been that far back. But he was like, a theatrical release for a movie like mine is just a big advertisement for the eventual DVD.
Yep.
You know, and I was like, holy shit, he's right. Because people that like his movies are going to go see it. But then 10 times more people are going to rent or buy the DVD because their friends who went to see it are going to tell them about it. I'm like, holy shit, yeah.
And I sort of missed I mean, you can still buy DVDs, obviously, but I love the DVDs.
I still do all the time.
They have the features, the commentaries. If you watch, you can stream it for $3 or 99 cents, and you're going to watch the movie, but you're not going to get all the different.
You're not going to get all that cool stuff that comes on a DVD, like Film School in a Box too. Watch the commentary, watch the making of. You'll learn so much about filmmaking. That's my advice to filmmakers. If you're like, oh, I watch YouTube videos about making movies. No, go buy some DVDs at Goodwill and watch, especially a Kevin Smith movie or a Robert Rodriguez movie, because their behind the scenes stuff shows you how to make a movie.
Yeah. I mean, look at Tarantino. He basically started making movies because he and Roger Avery worked at a video archives in California, and then that's it.
I worked at a movie theater and wanted to make movies. Like, yeah, and I eventually got friends who wanted to do it too. And like, yeah.
I worked at Video Venture in Waterbury for one day, but that's another story. that didn't go too well.
Ladies and gentlemen, Frogs gets a thumbs up. Back on topic.
Yeah, but
Frogs gets a huge thumbs up. Everyone go watch it.
Yes, please. Next movie, this is we're still in the F, from Frogs to Frankenhooker. It was released, as I mentioned, in 1990. I loved it. As we mentioned earlier, it's a comedy, it's a horror comedy, but they're in on the joke, but it's not trying to be campy. They're just trying to say, you know, we're having a good time. It's a fun movie. And
like the same guy who made Basket Case made this.
Yes. And I love
it. And it's very much that style, especially Basket Case 2 or 3 even. It's more in that style of the sequels, but like he knows that this movie won't be taken seriously because of the title, and it shouldn't be taken seriously. And they play it is a comedy, you know, but they don't play it for camp. It's just campy because of what it is. And like all the Jersey accents. Yeah. I always forget about that till I'm watching it again. And they're so over the top. And as soon as they talk, I'm like, oh my God, that's right. This is in Jersey. And they have to beat you over the head with it. You know, and that whole movie just beats like the very first scene, she's supposed to be overweight.
No, I was going to talk about that.
And let's talk about how they just gave her they padded her hips to make her look heavy.
And she's actually a penthouse pet in real life.
Yeah, and then they gave her shoulder pads and padded her hips. So, and the thing is, like, she didn't look. It wasn't like they did. What was that stupid Shallow Hal? They didn't give her a fat suit.
No,
they just made her look like she's a normal human being.
She was still hot, even with all that padding.
They didn't do anything to her cheeks or anything. She still looked the same, but she had these big shoulders, these big hips, this big butt, and her family's all, "Don't eat those pretzels. You're too heavy." You know, and the guy loved her for who she was too. That was a great thing. He didn't need her to be perfect. He was in love with her. But like that was like, and to me, that's like, okay, this is them making fun of Hollywood's ideals even in 1990.
Yeah. Well, right after that, she says, "Oh yeah, well, I had him staple my stomach. Is he a doctor? No, but he's my husband, so I let him do it."
Yeah, but I'm going to marry him, so it's okay. Yeah. Like, are you kidding me? Like, I rewatched it again yesterday, like
Yeah.
literally yesterday. I was like, are you gonna I'm gonna marry him. So, and he went to medical school, but he flunked out, or like three medical
He got
schools.
kicked out of every medical
He
school he went
quit or
to.
goes kicked out. Yeah. Like, and like and then like she gets hit by the freaking lawnmower and dies. Okay. But like everything, like even like the news reports, they knock on his door. Can't you leave people alone with their grief? Like
No, but the funniest thing was what they were saying. The guy that was going on, it was like a puzzle, a jigsaw puzzle. Like the way,
jigsaw puzzle, the cop, yeah.
and he's going on and on. It's like this guy has no compassion or empathy for
No,
this
but
family.
that was borderline trauma material, you
Yes.
know.
Well, actually, the one
And
I saw.
Trauma did release it,
Yes.
did distribute it, but they didn't make it. They did end up buying it
Oh
from
no,
the
I know.
producer. They didn't actually produce the movie, but that's like borderline Trauma style,
Yeah.
like lines like that where there's like no compassion for people. Like, and then the movie's called Frankenhooker, and it takes until 40 minutes into the movie to her actually being rebuilt and becoming Frankenhooker, and then it's all gloriously downhill from there.
Oh, I love it. Well, let's
Like,
explain for people who
well,
haven't seen. Let's explain the
okay,
plot. So she's like, as we mentioned, he's I don't know what he does for work, but he likes.
you never know what he does for work. Yeah,
But the movie opens up and you have this big brain with this Cyclops eyeball, like
in
Cyclops
a
brain,
fishbowl.
fishbowl, and he's trying to like get to work and to hitting the different nerves in the brain. So then they're at a birthday party, and that's when he says, "Don't put down that pretzel. You're getting too
Yeah, it's
fat."
her dad's birthday party.
So then she goes, "Oh, we made a great present." And Jeffrey, he made a remote control so you can use it. He's like, "Get out of the way, get out of the way, get out of the way," and it just mows her down literally.
Yep, like
So
oh
what he does is he's like, I need the he all of a sudden, well, during the news report, yeah, there's some body parts missing. We're not really sure which body parts are missing, but because the body was such a mess and it was like this and that, it's like a jigsaw puzzle. So we end up finding out that he has the head and I think the leg. Yeah, so he was like, I gotta find a body because it's
yep.
Frankenstein. Basically, Frankenstein. He's Dr. Frankenstein.
I want to really quickly cut you off when he's after she dies and the opening credits are playing and they're
Yep.
going over that map of the body that he drew and
Yes.
he's making all the notes. Something that starts happening in that scene is he starts talking incessantly.
I was gonna
And
say, do
he
you know?
never stops talking the whole movie. Just want to put that out there. He talks to himself the entire there's never a silent scene because he talks to himself. And if he's in the scene, he's talking. Whether to himself, the wall, the head, just, anyways, but go on. Sorry. That's
Yeah,
where it
no,
starts.
that's true.
Never
Well, no,
he never stops talking.
I want to go back to this. That's funny. I wanted to talk about that scene because then the mother comes in. It's right after she died. He keeps on putting the VHS tape of the news report of like,
The news report. That's he's got it in the book, the Grey's Anatomy book. He
what are
keeps
you
it hiding
watching
in
that
there.
for? You got to get over it. And he's
And
going,
they don't give you a time frame of how long it's been either.
yeah,
It could be 2 days, and his mom's like, "Get over it," or it could be a year. You don't know. All you know is she's dead,
yeah.
and he's
Well,
watching the video.
he's going on. He's mom. I'm sort of become disassociative. I really don't like people. Basically, I want to kill myself. And
He
her
outright
response,
says, "I'm gonna do horrible things, Ma." And what does she say to him?
she pauses and says, "Hey, you want a sandwich?"
Yeah, he legit says, I like he pretty much says that he's either going to kill himself or he's having trouble connecting with reality. Like he's pretty much saying he's having a psychotic breakdown.
Yeah.
And his mom's like, "There's some chicken salad in the fridge." Like,
And then she says, after all that, and one more thing, yeah, get some rest.
get some sleep.
Get some
Get
sleep.
some. Okay, Ma. Okay, Ma. I can't do a Jersey accent, but he does the
I know.
okay, Ma. And then he goes out into the garage and he's got the whole like setup for like a beautiful dinner and he opens that fucking freezer with all the purple goo and pulls her head out and sits it on the table and this is when he never stops talking. Like I didn't and I've seen this movie a dozen times. It never sunk in that I'm doing it now too. He talks the entire movie. When he's driving looking for the horrors, he's talking to himself. When
Yeah.
he's walking, when he's in the room by himself, he's talking to himself. He never there. If he didn't talk to himself, that movie would have dialogue in maybe 20 minutes of the whole thing.
So you know, you're right. Wasn't even paying attention to that,
He
but
just never, and I'm sure that was part of the joke. Like he's just
yeah,
always like when he's drilling his head, he's talking to
yeah.
himself.
What was that
Like,
all about? It's like, oh yeah, this is
it
good.
helped him think clearer and come up with
Yeah.
ideas. Oh my god! So how did you he ends up. I'll pick up the story here. He ends up deciding to through drilling holes in his head to help him think clearer. He comes up with the idea of he'll get hookers with his Christmas money He legit like I've got my Christmas money, like or something like that at some point. He's gonna go get hookers and cut them up to make a new body because her body's gone. He has her foot and he has her head, and I think he has her hand.
Yeah.
Or is it just her foot and her head?
I remember the foot and the head, but I thought he had the
Because he
hand.
writes her the poem after they're having that dinner,
Yeah, and
and
he
he
puts
wants
it
to
in
give her the
that.
poem, and he puts it between her toes and drops it back in the
Yeah, so it
freezer.
might have been just the foot. But
It might just be the foot, yeah. But he's got the foot, the hand, the head at least. So he's got to rebuild a body. That's where Frankenhooker comes in. His last name is Franken too. So
yeah.
J- J- um, Jeffrey Franken.
Yes, Jeffrey Wright. And you know what's funny about that? I was reading behind the scenes, and they
Was it
said
Jeffrey
was
Combs
Jeffrey.
they named him after? No.
No, do you mean the
The guy
director?
from Reanimator, the
Yeah,
actor.
Jeffrey Combs is Reanimator.
Yeah, okay. I thought they named him after that actor.
Oh, they might have. That I didn't know. They
I could
could
be
have.
making that up in my head because it just made sense to me. But
That definitely does make good sense. I see where you would get that, but this was the director's first SAG film, and that the reason I'm bringing this up was that they had it was the first time they had to use actors from the guild, and
yeah,
after a lot of the actresses saw the script, they're like, I don't want to be nude, I don't want to do this. So he went to this place called Billy's Topless Bar looking for girls. So a lot of those were just strippers that they ended up signing up to become
there's a
SAG
couple
members.
actual porn stars as the stripper, as the hookers too. There's a couple legit women who became or were at that time porn stars,
Oh, that's funny.
like in VHS era porn. Yeah. Um, but like so then he goes to Jersey, meets this pimp,
Yeah, what's his name? Oh my God,
Zorro.
Zorro. That's it.
Like I said, I just watched it last night. Zorro, who brands all his girls with a Z, meets this pimp. This other girl like helps him make a deal with him to get as many girls as he wants. He discovers that he's the pimp is control. Jeffrey discovers the pimp is controlling the girls with crack,
Yes.
keeping them high on crack all the time. Which remind me of this later if I tell you like my experience with this movie the first time I saw it. So he ends up making his own version of crack called super crack, which just cracks me up, pun intended. Gets the hookers together so he can, and this is the part I never remember till I'm watching again. He gets all the hookers in the room to essentially size them up. He doesn't want to have sex with them. And that scene is so bizarre.
Yeah.
Like I always forget how like there's just boobs everywhere. The women are just like, "Are we gonna fuck or what?" And he's just measuring their leg. Oh, perfect leg, perfect. I just like it, the perfect size. Like, oh, look at those are great nipples for good buoyancy. He's poking at. I'm like,
Yeah, I love the close up on the nipple with the magnifying. Like,
I
oh,
just
this
remember
is
last night I'm
awesome.
watching this in my living room at like 5:30 in the afternoon. I've never seen this movie in the daylight in my life. And I'm sitting here, and my windows in my living room are huge, and I'm like, anybody walking by can see this. We're like just any of my neighbors walking their dog could look in the window like, what the fuck is he watching? And I'm like, well, it's me. They expect this from me at this
It's
point.
just John enjoying another Saturday
John and his
afternoon.
stupid puppets and all that. Like, but but so and then they start smoking the crack and they explode.
Well, speaking of that, I
Oh,
guess
yeah.
no. So you know what I'm going to say? They used
She tested
all
the
their
crack on
whole
the guinea
budget.
pig.
Yeah. Well, no, they used their whole budget on the
Whole budget
pyrotechnics.
on that, I
Yeah.
believe. Well, their whole effects budget was. I mean, was they made all these mannequin women to blow them up? Oh my god, I love that scene so much.
Then Zorro's downstairs. I'm sick of this shit. I'm going upstairs. He opens up the door. And the
The
head.
head of the main hooker comes and knocks him out cold. So Jeffrey having guilt now because he all of a sudden, as the girls find the crack, he's decided he has like an epiphany when he's investigating. When he's like sizing them all up, he has an epiphany that he doesn't want to do this now. He's realized this is a bad idea, and but then the girls find his bed. They're like, "What about the money? You still got to pay us." So he throws the money at them, and they open up the bowling ball bag, and there's all this cash, and underneath it is the bag. Like we're talking like a bigger than my head bag of
Yeah.
crack, like, and it was called super crack. And they flip out and they start smoking the crack, and he's like, "Don't do it." Then they start grabbing him and trying to hump him and all that. And then you see how, like, even though this guy is crazy and trying to cut women up and make a new girl out of it, you see how conservative the character really is. And I always forgot about that too. Because when two of the girls start making out, he gets really upset, like he's homophobic about it, which comes to play at the end.
Yep.
Because he gets really like, oh my God, your bodies aren't made to do that. Don't do that. Like he's more upset about that than the fact that they're smoking this crack and they're going to explode. And then he realizes it's too late and everyone just starts exploding. That's how Zorro gets knocked out. That one girl's head hits him and knocks him out cold. And then he has guilt for killing all these women. Now he's going to kill them anyways.
I know.
He takes all their bodies home to save them, to put them back together after he fixes. The fuck was her name?
Oh my god, I can't remember now.
I just watched it last night.
Well, I know. I watched. Let's see if I have it written down. Because actually, it's funny. Nope, I don't have her name down. I just have Jeff. Oh, Elizabeth.
Elizabeth, yeah.
Elizabeth.
I've
Yep.
got to go home. I got to fix Elizabeth first, then I'll fix all of you. Like they can hear him, and he dumps all their body parts in that vat that he keeps her head and foot in. You know,
Yep.
like. Anyways, you can go on from here and finish the story if you want. I'm sorry.
Oh no, no, go ahead. You know exactly. You just saw it
Well,
last
anyways,
night. So.
he finally makes her, and she comes to life, and she has no memory of her previous life. She's just a hooker now.
And that's
She
like, you
knocks
want
her
a
out cold.
date?
Yeah, you want a date? And like, give Patty Mullen, right? Patty Mullen, is that her name?
Pretty sure.
Patty, going back to it. Where are you? Patty Mullen. Give her like credit. She's a penthouse pet, gorgeous woman, goes full on in this movie, like totally acts.
Oh
Has
yeah.
no fear of not being weird, has no fear of being funny. She stumbles around in those Frankenstein high heels instead, the Frankenstein boot with her high heels, and she's just making faces and she's hamming it up. Like she has no like, I'm supposed to be a serious actor and I can't make these funny faces. She is like, nope, we're doing this. This movie's called Frankenhooker, you know, like I'm
Yeah.
gonna be the Frankenhooker, and she just goes for it. Like another actress might not have done that. They might have been too self-conscious to go 100% into it. But every in that movie was going 100% into it. So maybe but she goes back to New York and starts trying to be a hooker. She kills two dudes with sex,
Yep. And
and
then
then
he goes to New York chasing after her. And he finally
chasing
finds
it
her.
down. And Zorro figures out what's going on, sees his brand on her arm because it's actually one of the old hooker's arms,
Yep.
and decides that he's going to take her. But he can't. Like I don't remember. They're at the bar where they meet Zorro. They're back there, and she ends up killing somebody or something, like blowing a guy up. The guy goes to go down there on the table, and he explodes. And Jeffrey shows up and drags her out there, and they leave. But Zorro follows him home. But her head keeps falling off because it's not sewn on right. Remember? Do you
Yeah.
remember that? So they're in the
Yeah.
car, and like she drives off, and the head flies back, and like, and she's like, the thing is, like, if she, for those who haven't seen the movie, if she has sex with somebody, they explode. Probably a
Yep.
side effect of the crack, I'm guessing, that's in all the bodies of all the dead hookers. I don't know. It's never really explained. It doesn't have to be. It's just funny.
It just has that little like the flashing light type thing where you see it like
Yeah,
almost like
like
electricity.
electricity in the mouth, and
Electricity. Yeah.
like the first guy she sleeps with, when he explodes, she's still holding his head, and he was like,
Yeah.
"That was the best, baby," and he dies or whatever. Like,
That guy was hilarious.
yeah, he was great. He
You
another
want a
actor who's so
date?
all
Yeah.
in. Yeah.
Oh my
Oh
god,
my
it was
god.
fun.
Yeah, he was so. And then so Jeffrey brings her home, straps her back up, bolts her neck on better, and then charges her back up, and she has her memory now. And now she's mad because she's like, "What have you done?" You know. And he explains, "Oh, I can only do it to women bodies. Again, the estrogen is the only thing that would help it work." And then Zorro shows up while they're arguing about it and cuts the dude's head off. Cuts Jeffrey's head off. She screams. And then he like starts yelling how you're mine, I own you, my brand is on you, you're gonna come work for me now. And all the dead hooker parts that were in that fridge start coming out of the fridge. Those of you who haven't seen, they start
Yeah.
crawling. He knocks it over and they start crawling out, but they've like morphed into like multiple body things, and they
Yep.
essentially kill him and drag him into the fridge, and that's the end.
Yeah. Well, then, they put his
But
head on.
then,
Oh, never mind.
no, you do it. You tell it.
Yeah, I was gonna say. So she ends up putting his head on a woman's body. That was the best ending.
You left great notes. And he was like, but what, how, what? And she's like, but like you said, it's only, estrogen was the only thing in the women. So, and then he looks, and he's got boobs. He's like, where's my Johnson? Like that fucking line just killed me. Because the way he delivered it, that actor is great. Because, it was not him. The way he delivered it was just like, so, and this is the guy who was scared, like homophobic towards women being
Yeah, I
together.
know.
And now
It's
his,
funny. I didn't even think of that.
yeah,
Like
and now
myself,
she's like, but we can be together forever, even though you're a woman now. We can be together forever. And he's like screaming, and that's how it ends. Like these two mutants are gonna be together forever. Yeah, but that was like there's a morality play there that I never caught until yesterday.
yeah, it's
Like, oh my
funny.
God, he's really upset about hookers and he's really upset about killing people, even though he did it. But he's so crazy though, and he's really upset about gays. And now if he loves this woman so much, he wants to be with her forever, he's gonna have to be a woman with her. I
Well,
thought that was great.
yeah. Well, in 1990, Morton Downey Jr. was a huge show. So they had the Morton Downey Jr.
Yep.
type show talking about you got to legalize hookers and this and that.
Yep.
And
Oh, when I saw that, I forgot about that, and I was like, "Oh my God, the Morton Down." I just watched this movie right before the pandemic.
yeah,
Like again, I got the disc from Netflix because they were still doing discs, and I was like, "I haven't seen this forever. I'm gonna order the disc." And I don't own it. I have to own this movie too. Like
Oh, it's
I know
great.
I had the VHS. We're talking about like our experience with it. I had the VHS with the blinking light.
Yep. That's
When
when
it
I had.
first came out, the spine had the red light on it, like because the red light district.
Oh yeah.
But how did you first see the movie? Actually, now that we gave the plot away, how did you first see
I went. There was a place called Hollywood Home Video. It was like as we talked about earlier, these mom and pop shops, and
the
they had
best?
these places. Yeah, it was like you could get like 10 movies for $5, whatever it was. So I would get 10 movies. My brother would get 10 movies. My other brother would. So we'd watch just like you did. Go in
Well,
there.
weekend
This
at
cover
movies.
looks
Yeah.
great. Yeah. So I'd say, oh, man, this cover is great. I'm gonna check this out. So we rented it there in like I said 1990 probably. That's when it's like the huge VHS or yeah VHS
Yeah, it would have
boom.
been like 91 when it came out because they always took like 6 months to a year to come out on VHS back then. Yeah, because it was a
Yeah.
theatrical release.
Yeah, so I didn't see it in the theater for some
Yeah,
reason,
neither did I. Yeah.
but I definitely did see it renting it, and I just it was to me it was an instant classic. I just loved it. I got the joke. I thought it was hilarious, and it was entertaining. And like you said, everybody's all in. The acting
Yep.
is really good for a movie like that.
For a B movie, the actors all just were loving what they were doing. You could just tell they were all in on it. They wanted to have a good time. It was the same director who wrote and directed all three Basket Case
Yeah,
movies.
which I love
And
those.
this was right after the first. This was the first movie he made after the first one,
Yep.
and then he made the two sequels. So I think everyone was like, "This guy made Basket Case. We want in on this guy's next movie." I'm sure a lot of actors were like, "Okay, this guy's gonna be a huge director." He never really was, unfortunately. But
Yeah.
so you rented it, and your brothers and you were probably freaking out.
Yeah, we were laughing. I watched it. I don't know. I can't remember how many times. I haven't seen it in years until recently. I watched it
Yeah,
again last week, but I
I will.
watched it
I
so many times.
saw it. I'm really seeing the ad for it, like in like Starlog or Fangoria. Like there was a poster ad like on one
Yeah,
of the pages, and I was like, I want to see that movie. And then it just came and went in the theater. Oh, it was 1990 when it came out. I was 15,
yeah.
and if my friends didn't want to go see a movie or my brother didn't want to see, it, wouldn't go alone. I never thought to go alone to the movies. I was just like, I guess I'm not going. No one wants to go see it. Like whatever, you know. And it came and went pretty quick. It wasn't like I'm sure
Yeah.
in other bigger cities it stayed in theaters longer, but we live in Central Connecticut. It was gone in 2 weeks probably. You know.
Yeah.
Um,
Well, speaking of that, the reason probably it came and went so long, I was doing my research on this, and they said it was delayed because of difficulty of obtaining an R rating. They was trying to get the R rating, and they couldn't. But
but
you
even
just
once it hit theaters, it probably didn't do well. You know,
yeah,
it
no,
wasn't for everybody. I remember seeing a commercial on TV for like an MTV and being like, I
really,
want to see that movie. Like, I want to see that. It was just like, it wasn't like on like NBC Saturday Night Disney Movie. No, it was like MTV. I saw it on or something like, only a cable TV. Like, I want to see that, but it just never did. And then 1991, summer 91, me and a couple buddies were gonna be like hanging out at my house. My parents were gonna we were, like I think my parents were away for the night somewhere with my brother. They went somewhere. So we were just be hanging out getting pizzas like 16-year-olds do. Maybe go do some joyriding in the middle of the night because we had access to my buddy's mom's minivan, like because he brought it over to stay the night with the van. His mom was like, it's fine. So three of us are just like hanging out. We knew we were gonna go cause some trouble later at night. Like our whole plan was to go out and like wreak havoc in town, like silly stuff, you know, like 16-year-olds do. We were going to
yeah,
burn anything down, maybe. Will never happen because at 10 o'clock, Frankenhooker came on. We were watching some other movie. Frankenhooker was next. And my other two buddies were like, Frankenhooker. I'm like, oh my God, I've been wanting to see this. So we're like, yeah, well, let's just stay here and watch Frankenhooker. And it opens, and we're like, all right, this is like Toxic Avenger type stuff. Like, and we were like into Toxic Avenger and things like that, like Trauma films. And the Trauma logo was at the beginning, but
yeah.
it wasn't made by Trauma. But we didn't understand the difference between made by and distributed by back then. I didn't understand any of that kind of stuff. Oh my God, it's a Trauma movie. It's gonna be nuts. And then she gets hit by a lawnmower. We lose our shit. And then we're just like, I don't know. I don't know. For like the next like 10, 15 minutes. We were laughing, but it wasn't like, I don't get why everyone was so excited about this movie. And then the super crack scene came, the scene with the hookers,
Yeah,
and they bring
exploding.
out the crack, and we could not stop laughing about super crack, super drugs. And crack was a big deal at that point in 1991.
Yeah,
Crack was everywhere. It was in the news. Crack and AIDS like was everywhere. And crack is just funny because to me, some comedian once said, I don't smoke crack because why do I want to put the part of my body that puts the shit out up against my mouth? Good point. It's named
I,
after that part of your body. I don't necessarily want so, but like
I
at
like
least the
that.
super crack. We thought that was just so fucking funny. And then the movie goes on, and we were just like, and when it was over, that's all we could talk about. We ended up leaving my parents' house to go find like a 24-hour 7-Eleven to get more snacks so we could go back and talk about Frankenhooker.
That's
All of our
funny.
plans to go out and like meet up with these girls and like, no, we're just gonna fucking hang out and talk about Frankenhooker. And it was gonna be on again at like 2 in the morning.
Yeah.
So we waited for it to come back on, and it was just like so fucking funny. I loved it so much. It was so stupid. And then the next day, like or 2 days later, I'm like trying to tell my brother about this movie, and he's like, "You dreamt that." I'm like, no. He said the same thing to me about Phantom of the Paradise when I first told him about it. He's like, you dreamt that. I'm like, I did not dream this. This was a fucking movie that we watched twice. He's like, you guys were high. I'm like, we were not high. There was no drugs to be found. We didn't even have alcohol. We were like high on caffeine and sugar. Like we were.
that's that's
And
funny.
then Suncoast opened up in West Farms Mall like not long after that, and there it was. And I was like, I don't care if it's $30. I'm buying this. Like I had to have it. It
Yeah.
was like one of the first videotapes I can remember buying, like buying. Like I bought a couple before that. Like I had the '89 Batman because it was the first video that was like the biggest deal you could buy. And I had a couple of Indiana Jones movies, but that was like the first impulse buy. Like, oh my god, I need that. It's the fucking light. Like I had to have it.
Oh yeah, no, I bought
Yeah.
this in similar story where I bought it, but for me it was different because I grew up watching movies with my father, like I Spit on Your Grave and Evil
Yeah.
Dead. So I think he actually watched it with us and he just loved it too. This is hilarious. So it was a family event for me.
That's awesome.
But my two brothers, myself, my father, we just loved it. And it was funny because I want to go back to like the whole movie being made. I guess the director recalled that he received a phone call from the production company. He called and wanted to find what's going on. And this is a true story. The secretary said, "Yeah, congratulations, you're the first film to receive an S." He goes, "S for sex." She goes, "No, S for shit." I love that line. I was like, "This is hilarious."
Oh, like I mean I can see why people like would not get that movie. You know, like it was not made for the masses. It was called Frankenhooker. Some movies you see the title, you know what you're getting into. Like so if somebody walks in that movie expecting high art, you're a fucking idiot. You know, like it's supposed to be funny. It's supposed to be stupid. Like and like there's some great lines that like the whole like I'll make do you want a sandwich and like oh my god, like where's my Johnson? Like there's just like
Oh
oh
yeah.
I can't call it a quotable movie because you're not gonna sit there. I mean, me and my buddies talk about Super Crack for weeks after. I remember my girlfriend at the time, me and another buddy called her for like remember when you could do the total phone, like you could pick
Oh
up two
yeah.
lines at once. My buddy called me, and then I called over to her to figure out what we were doing tonight because the three of us were gonna hang out with his girlfriend. So we were trying to figure out. So he's like, "Hey, what time are we gonna get your girlfriend?" I'm like, "I don't know. Let's call her." So boom, hit the button to call her. We got her answering machine because she was like out having dinner with her parents or something. I'll never. And this is fucking Frankenhooker's fault, ladies and gentlemen. We thought we disconnected, and then him and I went on a rant about how we're gonna smoke super crack all night. I can't wait to we're gonna pick up the super crack. They just like there's the car. Let's go get some super crack after we pick her up. Then we'll smoke the super crack. Then we'll smoke some more super crack. And then you know maybe we'll blow up. Like and we're like talking is like just like it's how we would talk to each other. Then hung up. Then we
That's
got there to pick her up because she called back and she's like, "Hey, come give me this time." We got there. Her mom was like, "I want to talk to you guys." And we're like, "What did we do?" Like we're thinking like she found out we did something stupid. And she wanted to like lecture us like a parent would do. And she's like, "What's this?" She played the whole conversation about super crack off the answering
that's
machine.
funny.
And we immediately started cracking up. My girlfriend hadn't heard it. All she was told was, "Oh, here's a message from John and Derek. They call John back." So she didn't know either. And now the three of us sitting there, like her and her moms are like, "You can't smoke crack." Like she's ready to give us like the drug speech. And we're like, "Oh my God." Now we have to explain to my girlfriend's mom what super crack is. I'm like, "No, it's a thing in a movie that we saw. We thought it was funny. No one's smoking crack." And her mom was like naive to drug stuff. So they didn't know
Like, I'm sorry,
like
Nancy
16-year-olds,
Reagan.
16-year-old kids in West Hartford aren't we don't even know where to get crack.
Yeah,
You
that's
know, like we
hilarious.
were like, no, it's just this joke. And she's like, well, be careful where you joke then. She was cool with it when she realized we were just messing around. And it's like, yeah, okay. Like, because the teachers hear that, they're going to get really worried. And we're thinking, we've been making super crack jokes in the class for like 3 weeks, like in
That's
school.
funny.
Like,
Yeah.
no one's questioned it. Like, but yeah,
They
super
probably had
crack.
no. There's another movie I can't remember the name of. As I mentioned before, I go to a lot of the movie conventions like you do,
Yeah.
and there was a director I met, and I have the movie somewhere. I think it was on VHS somewhere, but it's very similar story. But this time, they grabbed the libido, like or the Johnson of Jim Morrison, who has Jim Morrison's libido, but the brain of Liberace. It's hilarious. So it's
Sounds familiar. Yeah.
yeah, I have to look that up. So I'm sure I have it somewhere in the other room.
We should
But
make
it's
that one
like
of
it's
our
yeah,
views.
we have to
Yeah.
make that. I haven't seen that in years. I probably bought that. I want to say probably the same as you for the 2001, like when you saw Frogs. I
Okay.
rented or bought it, and but it's like he's so horny and he has libido, Jim Morrison, but he's going after all the guys. It's
Oh, the guy,
hilarious.
it's Liberace.
Yeah,
Oh.
yeah. So it's done same thing. It's very fun. Everybody's in on the joke. They're just the acting is just they're all in just like this
Like
movie.
we've talked about like collectibles of stuff we bought from movies in the past. Like we've talked about our Evil Dead stuff and the Phantasm stuff.
Yeah,
And I had a poster from Frankenhooker for a little while. Like, and I found it years after high school. He had a flea market or something rolled up and beat up, and I had it for a while and hanging up. So I was like, I don't care, it's funny, and like my all my studio type spaces, and the woman I was with at the time was like, can you take that down?
that's
Not
funny.
like she's like, it's just like weird. And I'm like, but you haven't seen the movie. And then I remember I was my first wife. We rented the movie, and she was like, I still don't. The poster is still kind of weird to have up. He's like, my parents come over, and I'm like, okay, fine, I get
That's
it.
funny.
It's not like there's our apartment's small. I get it. I'll take it down. Like I don't know what happened to it. It's gone now.
Yeah,
But it was like a beat up old movie theater poster. I wish like, but it was like her in the middle of
yeah. No, I know exactly what you're talking about.
yeah,
It's
it was that classic like it might have been from a video store. I don't know, but it was a Frankenhooker poster.
Well, there was a place called Woka Video that I became friends with the owner. I'm still friends with him, and he used to say, "Rich, you want this poster?" So my whole room was filled with the Woka Video poster.
Nice,
And I'm pretty sure I had that one. I had the Puppet Master, like Puppet Master
nice.
4 or 5, and all the basket case I had. It's just all these different horror movies I grew up watching, and that
Now go back and watch that movie now though, and you'll realize that Jeffrey never stops talking.
I know.
And I think it might be because I think maybe they thought, and it might have been in the script. I don't know, because a lot of it sounds scripted, but maybe it was just they realized the movie was so quiet as they were shooting because there's so much of him just planning. They had
Yeah,
to have him narrate what he was planning, and I hate when they have narrators in movies.
yeah, me
So
too.
I'm glad it was just him talking to himself. But like he just talks to himself the whole time. It's
Yeah.
awesome.
Well, no, and now that you say that, I definitely. So by when I was watching, I really wasn't even paying attention to it. So I was just
Yeah.
laughing all
I
the
didn't
other
catch
things
that
going on.
till I didn't catch that till yesterday. It never sunk in till yesterday that he just it had to be like like a creative decision. Like let's have this guy never stop talking to himself.
Well,
Yeah.
there were some people that did like it. Bill Murray was quoted as saying
Yeah.
actually in the box. He says if you're only going to see one movie this year, it should be Frankenhooker. And they wanted to quote him so badly, but he said he didn't want to like. He said he didn't want to seem like a stalker and try to track him down. And Bill Murray's like, yeah, go ahead. I guess I don't know how he saw it, but he
He
loved the
probably
movie.
yeah, I mean it's Bill Murray. He probably went to a screening somewhere or somebody sent him a pre-edit of it or something like yeah, I mean like it's a fun like Frogs though. It's a fun movie that just fell under the radar if you weren't into that kind of thing. And you don't have to
Well,
be a horror fan like Frankenhooker. It's not necessarily even a horror movie.
no, not at all.
It's just a weird it's a body horror movie for sure. But it's also just this weird comedy.
Yeah,
Legit comedy. Like and part of it is the performances. Like everyone just goes for it. They go all out with it. And the guy that played Zorro was only in like one other movie.
was he?
I think he
What was
played
he
a
in?
pimp in that too. But I think it was one of other. It was another one of the same Frank. Who's the director? Frank
Oh my
Lock.
God.
Lock
Yeah, Linklater or Linkletter or
I'm
it's some
going back. Henenlotter. Henenlotter.
that's
Frank
it. Yeah,
Henenlotter. Frank
that's it.
Henenlotter. Frank
Yeah,
Henenlotter. I think he was in like one. I think he's in one of the Basket Case movies or something. He was only in the movies that guy made. Apparently,
that's
he was
funny.
only in the guy was not a great actor, but he was great in that role. You know, like it was. Oh, what a fun, weird movie.
Yeah, and it actually won Killer Bee Film of the Year,
Yeah,
1990. So
but that was the thing because it knew what it was, but it didn't pander.
yeah,
Like a lot
exactly.
of people like you were talking about Sharknado. That
Yeah,
movie totally, and I don't hate Sharknado. I thought Sharknado was a ton of fun, but it panders to like, look, we're making a bad movie.
yeah,
We're making an over the top movie where Frankenhooker was just genuinely over the top
yeah.
and but
They were
played
just
straight.
they weren't
But
yeah
for
they weren't trying. They were
yeah,
just making a fun movie, and like Frogs wasn't trying. It's just they were trying
right,
to make a good movie. I want to go
yeah,
back to Frogs for 1 minute. I
yeah,
forgot one of
yeah.
my new favorite. I did like the kill with the moth, but my favorite scene, I almost forgot about this, was when he goes into the greenhouse and there's jars that say poison on it.
Yes. That whole greenhouse sequence was just like the most to me that was like the most bizarre thing in the whole movie.
That was great. And then the
Like it was
iguanas
just
are
like
knocking
what
it
is
over.
yeah, like why are you even in here right now? Why would you go in there? Why would you do there was like not a lot of logic for these characters in that movie at times. The only smart ones left and they got killed anyway. So like
Yeah.
yeah. Oh Frankenhooker gets my thumbs up too. And if Patty Mullen is watching this and you're single, call me.
Yep.
I'm here for you.
And if John's phone is busy, call me.
Who?
As if John's phone is busy, call me.
Yes, yeah. I mean, like I'm not like a guy who goes in and waits in line for autographs at like conventions and all that. It's just not my thing. But I would totally wait in line for a picture with her.
Oh my God, yeah.
Yeah, like
I
would
would
do
love to. I would love to have her on this show or the other show and just talk about just even about that movie because it's
that.
so much.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So
much
let's
fun.
try.
You know what's sad is it cost $1.5 million to make, and this is what the funniest thing. You know, they usually say, "Oh, the movie grossed 205,000." They actually, I looked it up. It grossed $205,068. They actually have it down to the exact dollar. But luckily, and then I'm so glad that the advent of first VHS and then made a VHS and then DVD, and so I'm glad that it definitely became a cult classic. People are
home media and cable TV made some movies huge, and although I'll never call this movie huge, it definitely made its money back, and it has a longer life because of it. Yeah,
people like Joe Bob Briggs and Elvira that took movies like that and had fun with it and
ran with it. Yeah,
more notoriety. And then now they have riff tracks, which I love riff tracks too. They'll do that, and like actually it's funny. There's a movie called Mikey, starred Andy, the one who played Andy.
Oh my God, the kid from Family Ties.
Yeah. So I saw that and I met him. I'm trying to get him on the show. He's like, just keep the news. I'm really busy. I'm a father, and I'm
and he went through some shit too. That kid went through some shit in his life too. So like, but that movie is dark.
Yeah, that's like I thought it was done after The Good Son. It was actually done before The Good Son.
Yeah. He's younger, or he's older than those guys. Yeah.
I was talking to him. I said, "Boy, that girl was really hitting on you throughout the whole movie." It was funny. It's like because remember, she's like, "Oh yeah, how about Mikey?" Yeah. I said, "She's all over." No, it was. I love that movie, but like you said, it was dark. But he's another one. That's another movie that it was under the radar.
I never even heard of that till I saw it like on 10 o'clock on HBO one night. It was like, this is disturbing.
Yeah, I saw it on Riff Tracks. That's why.
That's how you first saw it. Wow.
Yeah, I didn't
I saw it like on like HBO or Showtime or one of those, like when it was new to those networks. Like,
yeah,
and just being like, wow, this is a dark, weird, disturbing movie. I like it. Like, and I've never forgotten it. Like, I don't know all the details anymore, but as soon as you just said it, I knew what movie you were talking about.
You just mentioned all my favorite traits in a movie: dark, weird, disgusting, whatever.
Yeah, just disturbing, weird, dark.
Disturbing, yeah. Those are all my favorite traits in a movie. When I'm at the looking for something streaming or on cable, go to movies.
Right.
So, yeah, no. So all right. So we had Frogs, Frankenhooker, and you know what we should do? We should do the basket case movies.
When I was watching these, I'm like, we should go back because I remember the original, and I remember the third one being so much fun.
Well, it is. You know why? What happened with me was the cult classic.
The second one I don't remember that well, but I remember the third one was just
the best,
over the top. It was so over the top. The first one's still my favorite, but yeah.
Well, they showed part 1 and 2 of Connecticut Cult Classics. So I went to, as I always mentioned on this show, I go to Hamden Best Video still. I love that place. Check it out. So I said, I want to get Basket Case 3. And they're like, no, we don't have that one. So 2 days later, I get a phone call. Rich, we have it for you. So what? Yeah, but I heard you talking about how you wanted it, so we ordered it for you. So I went down there.
They're good for that, yeah.
Yeah, I love that place. Then they do have, you could get head there. I saw head in the local section.
I think Bernice might be there now too.
Oh, good.
I think Bernice 2 is in their stock. I'm not 100% sure, but I think they have Bernice 2 to rent now too.
If it's not, I will bring one down. I'll bring a copy down and put it in there for you.
Thank you.
But
Thank you.
it's so I did see the 3 recently, but I think we should do like a basket case 1, 2, and 3 special.
Yeah, I'd have to watch them all over. I haven't seen them forever, but I love the first one. I don't have a lot of memories. I know the second and third one came out within like a year of each other because they were made like back to back. But I remember the third one being like so much fun because it wasn't as scary. It wasn't as off-putting. The first one's a really true independent body horror film with some craziness. And like I said, I don't remember the second one as well, but the third one was just so goofy.
Well, you know what I compare it to? No, so sorry, I was going to say I compared to the like Evil Dead 2, and then Army of Darkness. Like part 3 like Army of Darkness.
Army of Darkness gets comedic, and the third one was pretty comedic. But well, we definitely do those then. Yeah, we'll do those.
All right,
cool.
So, I just want to say, anybody who's watching this right now, if you have a movie you want us to talk about, please let us know in the comments. Also, we welcome anybody. If you want to be a host on the show, you want to talk about a movie with either me, John, or both of us, definitely let us know. We'll be more than happy to have you on the show. We'd love to have everybody. Like I know my friend Rob, your friend as well, he puts the show, my other show, on different platforms. He wants to do Blues Brothers and Willy Wonka. I said, yeah, let's do
That'd
it.
be fun.
Yeah,
That'd be
that's
fun.
good.
I'm in for
I
the
love
both
those movies.
movies.
So other than that, do you have any final thoughts on either movie?
Um, I gotta buy them both now. I gotta find like super deluxe Blu-rays of them both to put in my collection after watching them both the past 3 weeks. Because like I was surprised I didn't have Frankenhooker. I could have sworn I bought it at some point, but I don't have it. So, but now it's like, yeah, I need these movies in my life on a regular basis.
Probably wrapped in that poster that you lost years ago.
And there's a good chance. Yeah, I mean, I've lost so much stuff over the years, and now I'm like
I know.
settled. Yeah, but that's it. How about you? Anything you want to last final thoughts on the movies or
Nope.
Patty Mullen? Call me.
Yes.
And single. Call me.
And if you call me, I could be single.
Or he'll give you the mess. He'll give me the message. Don't
yes.
talk to him. I can't cover your camera up. I'll find a way to do it in the edit where my hand goes over your face. Call me.
I know, damn it. He's got all the power over this. He can easily just edit me out completely. Edit this whole thing.
I'm actually before we go, I'm going to look her up online and see what she's doing. I'm not stalking her. I'm just going to Wikipedia. Or am I not? Oh, here we go. Hold on. Let's do
I want to look her up, see if we can get her for a guest. And then
let's do a Patty Mullen life story. Real quick, Penthouse Pet of the Month in 1986 and Pet of the Year in 1988. There's really not much about her life online. She keeps private apparently. So she's only been in 2 movies, Doom Asylum and Frankenhooker. And she was on an episode of The Equalizer, so she doesn't really act a lot. Maybe she's done more, but that's what was that? Yeah, she was in Doom Asylum. Yeah.
I want to check that out now, because if it's anything like this, I'm gonna love it. I love those quote unquote B movies.
Oh, it's definitely gonna be like this. I'm reading the synopsis. I'll let you find it yourself though. Yeah. But yeah, it doesn't sound like she's really out there doing a lot of stuff. So let's find her.
All right. Yeah.
I know she does the cons and stuff. I know she does like the horror cons and things like that. But according to IMDb, she lives in Florida with her 2 daughters. According to IMDb, but who knows if that's right or not? IMDb isn't always like Wikipedia isn't always the most accurate source. Yeah. Sorry, but yeah. So Pat, if you ever have to see this, I'm not hard to find. I'm a pretty good cook, and my house.
And hopefully, John, as this is going on, he's going to put my phone number scrolling across the screen.
Right. So, and I'll put you in a puppet movie if you want to be a puppeteer. You can come play with. Head 2, maybe you can be a character in it.
I could put you on my show, my other show.
Yeah, but Rich will be part of Head 3, so we'll save you for Head 3. We'll get you in Head 3 with Rich too.
I like how you're using your clout.
Hey, I've never done it yet. Why not start now on like the internet?
That's a perfect one to start with.
Yeah, and now I'm going to be like that weird guy on the internet that one time. Man. I'll wear the purple wig if it helps. Anyway. Oh man, we should have wore purple wigs for this. Anyways,
I know, dude. Next time,
we had the frogs behind us, but anyway, yeah. So, but that's all I got for this one. Like, I love doing this show. I'm glad we did this. I love it. No, and I'm glad we cleared up why we did them together because I was so confused.
No, it was
like,
weird.
What's the connection? Usually we have a connection thematically. There was no connection.
No, there was no. You thought of Frankenhooker when I saw it, and then I said, what can I think of? And then I don't know. I was downstairs and it just popped. Frogs, like, oh my God, frogs and Frankenhooker. Frog. That's like I said, it looks great in the marquee. Has nothing to do with the other movie. Completely different movies. One's a dark comedy. The other one's an eco horror. But they're both campy. Not trying.
That's a good thing. Yeah, they're both campy. So yeah,
they're both hilarious. They're both interesting. It never bores you. I was never going, oh my God, is this going to end? Actually. I love the character.
Yeah, that's the thing with Frogs. Like, even though, because it was of that era where movies were slower, not to go back into the show, but that movie never felt long. You never went, when is this going to wrap up? And then when it starts wrapping up, you're like, oh my God, but it's getting so good. Like, it's like, now it's getting weird, and now it's over. But it was like, that was perfect. Yeah.
I know. This movie had everything: water, moccasins, iguanas.
Yep.
Moss.
All right. So do your plugs, sir. Let's do our plugs.
All right. So. Once again, my name is Rich Sear, and you can also find me not only on Real Talk, but The Claw's Corner, which you can find edited by editor extraordinaire John Bristol of Elmwood Productions. It's on YouTube, and I'm also on several Connecticut radio stations. If you're in the Connecticut area, WAPJ is one of them, and Robinwood Radio. Also, you can find me on, thanks to Rob Bull, Spotify, iTunes, Amazon Music, Audible, and iHeartRadio. The name of the show is The Claw's Corner. Please look it up. Please subscribe. And please leave a review. We'd love to hear from you and love to hear what you think. And also, before we get to John's plugs, once again, if you want to be on the show, if you want to hear something, please reach out to us. We're very easy to find, especially if you're the girl from Frankenhooker. And with that being said, take it away, John.
I'm John Bristol. I'm I'm gonna get shit for this in the Elmwood guys. The founder and creative director at Elmwood Productions. We make movies with puppets and sometimes movies without puppets. You can find us at elmwoodproductions.com and all of our stuff. I'll even here you go. Business card. It's gonna focus. There's all of our links and everything. Almost all of our links. So we're everywhere on social media. Again, not hard to find. You ever want to question anything, ask us anything. We make custom puppets and make movies too. So if you want a movie you want to make, let's talk, or things like that. But yeah, and I do this show with Rich, and we have another show we're gonna be working on pretty soon with the whole Elmwood Productions team, which will be fun. Another show about movies, but very different from this. And yeah, you can our new movie Bernie's too. I'll give you guys a big secret right now, like a scoop. We've done a few screenings since the movie came out a year ago, and we have one more big screening planned in Elmwood, Connecticut. I'm telling you guys right now, October 13th in Elmwood, Connecticut. Keep your eye out. There'll be some tickets and stuff like that popping up soon, and the official announcement won't be till July or August, but Claw's Corner scoop on Real Talk right now. So that's coming. Rich will be there hosting it with his comedy, like he did the original one. And I think that's really it. And Rich's book. Don't forget to buy Rich's book. That's totally unrelated to me. He's got a book on Amazon. Just look his name up. It's behind me on the shelf. You can see it right over my head right there.
In case you can't see, it's called Confessions of a Frenetic Mind. You could find it on Amazon. Also, it goes great with a Confessions of Frenetic Mind hoodie, a Confessions of Frenetic Mind shirt, or a Confessions of Frenetic Mind phone case. So,
do you have beer koozies yet?
Hold on 1 second. Let's see.
Oh, he's getting his phone case.
There we go.
Yeah.
There we go. Confessions of a Frenetic Mind.
Do you have can koozies yet with that?
No, I do have to. I want to talk to you off the air because you have some really cool merchandise, and I know that who you go through, but I don't really know how to do that.
Talk, yeah.
Yeah, we'll talk.
Let's wrap up the show then we can talk about that.
All right. So, as I always leave off every show, and the other one, lastly, I want to thank Rob Bull, Joseph Timothy Quirky, especially John Bristol for everything we've done, and
especially Rich for everything he does.
Yep, I appreciate it. And lastly, but definitely not least, I need to thank you, the viewer, for always tuning in. Enjoy your day, everyone.